I saw the Barbie movie last weekend and I am a little obsessed. There's just so much to sink your teeth into with it, and all of it carried out with such aplomb. Just up top, this is obviously going to have like a load of spoilers in for Barbie, so if you care about such things, this has been thy warning. Also, I just wanted to acknowledge that this video was made during the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes. This video wasn't made with any support from any of the studios, and I do not condone any support for the studios. Support for the unions, however, yes, do that! Yay, unions! Unions good. Unions very good. That's to say that any praise I do give the film is on the filmmakers, not the studios. Like it's frank discussion of idealised feminism as presented to us through consumerism. The intrinsic ties between capitalism and patriarchy and how they both kind of implicitly rely on latent fascism. The marriage of authoritarianism and fetishization within a mythologised image of masculinity and how that leads to isolation and marginalisation of the self and the other. A really quite fun way of visualising and criticising Plato's realism or theory of forms. There's also kind of a meta-critique of how Barbie fails in its feminism, leaning into pastiche, necessarily because of its status as a product under capitalism, about one of the most famous products created under capitalism, and made under the watchful eye of those whose power and influence depends on the continuation of capitalism, and thus, inherently, misogyny. And I could go on. I really could. I really could. However, I want to focus on one thing of it. Something I am sure that flew airliner altitude height over the heads of most of the people who've seen it. And that is that this Barbie is transgender. Watch me dance, the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it on my face. Before I go any further, I want to make it very clear that I'm talking about how the film is transgender in its themes and such. I'm not talking about Harry Neff or her casting. I will say that she was very good, very funny, and that Ben Shabibo's emotional breakdown about the mere fact that people like her and me exist was sadly funny. In that I was laughing at him, of course. I don't particularly want to do dunking stuff, generally speaking, but on the other hand, yeah, fuck it. Do spend 45 minutes ranting about how it's going to destroy Western society. Like, bitch, if it was that easy, you would have done it by now. I almost feel sorry for him. It's like he's never experienced a breath of joy in his entire life. I bet even like the mere mention of the word makes him explode in panic like one of those cats that have just seen a cucumber. He saw happiness once as like a fleeting glimpse over the horizon, in his hand curled into Arthur's angry fist at the mere idea that could possibly exist. Anyway, Harry Neff doesn't deserve any of the shit being thrown at her, and no one in her position ever would. What she's been experiencing is nothing but vitriolic bigotry. She's not the focus of this video, and importantly for this whole thing I've made here, if she hadn't been cast, Barbie would still be trans. That's because this film was made for and about the dolls. I'm sorry, babes, but I will have to introduce a whole ass cohort of cis people into a little bit of our culture here. The term doll is used a lot in queer circles, specifically for trans women about ourselves. I'm quite fond of it myself. I use it a lot. And no, just because doll is a shared term between us does not make Barbie trans. The word's deeper meanings and complex implications mixed with the simulation and indeed the simulacra of a Barbie doll does. Its origin, like the vast majority of the coolest phrases used throughout society after they've been appropriated without credit, comes from black queer culture. The meaning of the term is a little more muddled and individualised to a certain extent. For us, I mean, the dolls. It comes with the recognition of how we build our femininity, finding our inner selves and constructing an exterior to match that, or at least lead us to a place where that exterior is accepted. The movie recognises this in a couple of interesting ways. The main one being Barbie Land itself. The Barbies don't really have a firm grasp on how our reality works, just a vague awareness that it exists. They are aware of a level of idealism in their existence. They textually follow tangible examples of what women can be. That aspirational aspect, constructed nature of their world, woven through the hydrocarbon chains of the plastic it's constructed out of. Well, it's not a perfect allegory, but that's dolls, baby. Like, comment, and subscribe. Part of stereotypical Barbie's journey is a sudden realisation of emotions. Not that she didn't have any before that, far from the truth actually, but suddenly crying several times a day and it feeling kind of cathartic. It's a heavily trans-femme experience. Not gonna lie, HRT works a lot of magic, and one of them definitely is opening up that big old feelings cupboard. Something I didn't know I was missing out on until I did. That point's a bit weak, I'll grant you. I just needed something to tie looking like an emo circa 2006 into the video at large, because this is how I went to see the film. In a way, a lot of my aesthetic is still developing, and sometimes I just want to indulge in what teenage me couldn't. Something I knew I was missing out on, but I didn't know how it would feel. I am currently, quite literally, going through second puberty. I didn't get a chance to play with Barbies, admittedly not that I would have anyway. No me gustan las muñecas muchas. They kind of creep me out a little, ironically. There's another thing that I was missing out on, something that I knew about but I didn't know. And Barbie has the exact same experience of melancholic discovery. A sudden vanishing of societal respect, an overnight reduction in belief in my abilities and knowledge from the people around me. An edge of dehumanization tinged with threat in things said to me where there wasn't before. That's misogyny. Barbieland exists explicitly as a place where sexism has been beaten in a very Western liberal view of what that could mean. Basically, all institutional power is held by the Barbies, women. Kens do not have any of it. There's a prescient line that Ryan Gosling Ken delivers to Margot Robbie Barbie about how he only exists within her gaze. The Kens, at the start, and to a lesser extent the conclusion of the film, do not have the agency or the capability to think of themselves as anything other than accessories. Their purpose is fulfilled solely for the service of the Barbies. Which is fine if you've got safe words and fully comprehending sober consent. It's not something to base a larger society around, however. But of course, if you're interested in pursuing some of those interests that do involve the use of safe words, along with many, many other options and services, then might I interest you in clicking that link down in the description to find some of my exclusive content. Getting back on track here though, Barbie has never experienced misogyny until she comes to our world. Stepping, driving, orbiting, snowmobiling, at one point camping, through the veil from plastic artifice to harsh reality. Here she's catcalled, belittled and sexually harassed. And it's a scary, confusing experience for her, as it is for every woman. What she exhibits is a lack of a framework for knowledge of what's happening to her. At one point, she directly addresses some of her harassers, and it doesn't work. Misogyny isn't bound by logic, or as TERFs are so often fond of claiming, biological reality. Barbie says straight up, I do not have a vagina. And coming as no surprise to me or any of the other dolls, that doesn't stop it. She explicitly stated she at least understands the basics of how sexism functions prior to this point. But she didn't know. She didn't understand how that affects someone on such a deep level. Targeting a fundamental layer of the sense of self. That's something I went through early on in transition. The majority of trans people also have this experience of being viewed differently by others. We have a unique perspective on this, as our tastes, our likes, our personalities don't really go through the same metamorphosis. We're still the same person when we transition, as much as everyone exists within a constant state of flux. That change comes from exterior perception and how that fits within society's understanding of what expected gender role we fit into now. Barbie's mother's in this film, as a character, I mean. She's her creator, delightfully played by Rhea Perlman, but she's metaphorically and textually her mother too. These are two separate things combined in the form of Ruth Handler, who apparently occupies some kind of Star Trek Generation-style nexus on the 11th floor of the Mattel building. As you do. She's in there because she's, dead. That's her ghost, and just like the film, I'm not going to question it. Just like you're not going to question this ad for my Patreon. Sign up for early access to vlogs and stuff and videos and whatnot. Links in the description. The first time we meet her is halfway through a chase scene in an odd moment of calm amongst the slapstick. Soft light in a domestic setting greets us as Ruth's eyes widen in familiarity at the sight of Barbie. Love fills the screen. Barbie confides in Ruth just how scared she is, how her body doesn't match her idea of perfection. Ruth meets those anxieties with acceptance, recognising Barbie's feelings whilst reminding her, in not so many words, that perfection isn't in the physical, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. Barbie becoming her own, finding herself, that's the beautiful part. Then she tells Barbie how to get out of the building, in order to escape the gang of men who literally want her to box her up, tidy her neatly away, to trap her, perpetually tied in a stasis of their image. Found family, recognition, self-discovery, mutual care. These are all themes of queer media, and this ticks them all. And when it's done well, like here, it makes me cry. There's also another more explicit tie to transness when it comes to motherhood. In the Hijra tradition of Southern Asia, a truly ancient, I'm talking older than written language, mode of gender nonconformity, which can and does encompass trans women, non-binary people, agender people, the whole gamut. Older members of a household leaders will oftentimes be called a mother. This reflects the nature of the relationship they have with the people under their care, protecting them, nurturing them, helping them find who they are. Similar group dynamics have sprang up and continue to do so the world over, serendipitously for the most part. The second time Handler shows up is right towards the conclusion of the film in Barbie Land itself. She comes to help Barbie, not with the plot of the film with the Kens going patriarchal and pseudo-fash or anything. No, she comes to help Barbie with herself. She transports the two of them to a liminal space where Barbie explains her desire to explore herself, to become real, to become a woman. With infinite kindness and love, Ruth explains to Barbie that she was created in the image of her own daughter, with the full acknowledgement that she wouldn't know how Barbara Handler would turn out, only that she would accept whatever that was. Barbie doesn't need Ruth's permission to transition, despite asking for it. She needed her own. To become Barbara, she only needed to let herself. The movie ends with an excited Barbara entering an office. She carefully gives her full name, enunciating carefully every syllable, finishing by saying that she's there for her gynecology appointment. This film's so fucking trans. How's that for a turnaround, eh? Knocked that one out the park pretty quick, actually, by my standards. Do make sure to like, comment and subscribe. That really helps the algorithm and stuff. And if you're feeling really cool, you can join these people right here, along with me, this Eldritch Spectra from Beyond the Mist of Time. I don't know why I did most of the last segment like this, but I did. On my Patreon, which helps me, survive. I like living. Links in the description for that. There's also my exclusive content. I normally look a bit different for that, but, I do custom content, so if you do like... whatever floats your boat, I'm not just judge. Yeah, just links in the link tree that's in the description for that, because YouTube algorithm. And finally, it only prevails me to say that this video was made under the watchful and protective gaze of the Goth Snail. All praise be to Goth Snail, who also reiterates my points about liking and the Patreon and the exclusive content and stuff. Cool. All praise Goth Snail.